Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Media. Today, I'm joined by two very special guests, Tucker of BackLogBanter,
Yes.
and for the first time ever, I've never even talked to this man, so I'm excited, Abram,
Wow.
from BackLogBanter. I got both boys here.
You do right on. Thanks
This
for
is
having me, Bo.
this is
I'm a big
exciting.
fan.
Thank you, thank you. Me too.
He actually does
I got
binge
some I
watch
got
like
some of those
unboxing content.
Ninty Freshes in there my shelf.
Oh hell yeah,
Yeah,
that's very
Oh.
cool. Yeah,
yeah.
and I actually do put off my work by watching your goddamn Goodwill videos, and I'm so jealous. I'm always watching those. They're very good. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Just like segue to Splatoon 3 Direct, maybe.
Is that good stuff? I don't know. I don't know what you guys' opinions are,
It's time.
and that's
It's
as
time
exciting.
for maybe the great Splatoon 3 direct debate.
Oh, I think it might be. Um, so I guess we can just kind of talk about this game in general. I've been waiting for them to show me a reason that this game exists, and I feel like they still haven't done that. And now I'm just like, damn, we're not gonna get that, are we? I don't know what I really expected them to do differently. It's a Splatoon. It's more Splatoon. Splatoon's great, but even just down to the fact that there's no new multiplayer modes, like ranked
Yeah.
modes, like that's come on, right? Don't you guys?
I think that is an interesting thing that is lacking because of course that's not an easy thing to develop. That requires them
No,
coming up with
no.
concept and balancing and everything. But I do think like a new type of multiplayer match is usually something you include with a new iteration of a game. I'd say for me that is the main thing that feels maybe lacking from this. Except for I was also hoping there to be a bigger difference for a single player, more focused single player campaign, something that took what they'd done twice and well, kind of three times in the past with Octo expansion and gave it a new format, maybe some kind of progression, some sort of more open map, different kinds of levels, something like that. Really, no information largely about the campaign here with the mammalians, Return of the Mammalians. But those are the only two things I really feel are missing. But I don't think that they're big enough to not make me excited for this game because I still do think it looks great and everything that they did show today, I think, is exactly what I wanted. There wasn't any surprises. That's the one thing I would say. There wasn't any surprises, but everything that they what did show, I was like, yeah, oh, that's good quality of life. Oh, I'm glad they're adding this. It does seem like they put a lot more thought into this. Why wasn't this in the past few games? This was a very good direct, but for only a month before launch and for basically not hearing about this game at all since it was revealed, it was weird that this didn't have another big shoe to drop, frankly.
Sure. Here's
Yeah.
where I come down on it. Right. Inside every Abram is a Bo Talks Media and a Tucker Hazel, right? Because I have a
Two
lot
sides of the
of
same coin, you know?
yes, I have a lot of very Hi highest level thought, right? I feel like there's a couple tiers here. Highest level thought, can't wait for the game, very excited. But then we get out of the caveman I like Splatoon part of my brain, and we're like, well, what are we actually getting in Splatoon 3?
Cave Squid.
Cave
In the
Squid,
cave
yeah.
squid part of my brain. And there's a
Yeah.
couple of things that I'm thinking about. Bo, I think you make a really salient point about how the actual the meat of the game is largely the same.
Yeah.
Even in terms of having 12 stages now, Tucker and I looked this up. We're increasing by 4 stages every time. So Splatoon 4 will have 16 stages.
Finally.
Um, but a lot of those are back from Splatoon 1, Splatoon 2. The modes, as
Yeah.
you're saying,
True.
Bo, it's we got Rainmaker, we got Splat Zones, we got everything. Tower Control
Clam
and
Maker.
Clam Maker. Yeah, all the
Clam.
classics. Even down
Never played
to,
one.
as you're saying, the single player framework, down to dear progression. A lot of that trailer was, hey, and this is how you move through the ink, and this is how you
Yeah.
upgrade a weapon, and you walk into a store, and it's Splatoon again. So I think there's reason to be disappointed there. But I think that there's also a larger point to contextualize about video games that exist
Yeah.
having different scales of expectations if they're made by Nintendo or not. And here's what I mean to say by
Oh,
that
absolutely.
is that Nintendo has put themselves in this corner that I think is one of their strengths, but also sometimes a very large detriment of if it's not new, apparently it's wrong. I
Mhm.
think about that, and I wrote about this a while ago when Miyamoto was like, we were going to make a new F-Zero game, but we couldn't
Couldn't
come
come
up
up
with
with
a
an
new
idea.
gimmick, so
Yeah.
we're not going to make it. If the industry existed like that, there would be no real progression, right? Because Splatoon was a great framework. Splatoon 2 was a better game, but it's undeniable that even Splatoon 2 was missing a lot of fundamental lobbying features, progression features that shooters multiplayer games beyond Nintendo stable
Yeah.
had, right? So when Call of Duty comes out every year and it's the same, nobody really cares because they like that gameplay formula. And that's what we're
Mhm.
getting here. But what we're also getting, I think, is a lot of features that bring it to parity with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah,
Better
exactly.
lobbying, better framework, better progression, a battle pass, all of this stuff. That's what Splatoon needed. Because someone also made a really salient point on Twitter where they're like, the they were talking about, oh, I'm excited for the direct, and somebody said, well, I'm excited for the direct because I want to know if I should buy the game. What they said basically was the fun of Splatoon is Splatoon being a persistent world and you being back in that world, and the fun of watching that expand and grow and playing and that act of playing, and that's what we're getting again. Splatoon
Yeah.
2 is dead. It's a dead game, for better
Yes.
or worse. I think that it's a situation where Splatoon 2 should have been a platform, and we should have still been getting content, but that's not what happened. So we've
Mhm.
gone, what, 2 years now ish with no persistent Splatoon. So the
Mhm.
fact that
Didn't they
in
have, like,
another
one weird one-off,
they did.
They
Splatfest?
brought back one, yeah.
But
That's
to close
weird.
off my rambly high level thoughts, it's like what we're getting is we're getting Splatoon back, which is exciting. It was a fixture of the Wii U's ecosystem. It's basically the only thing that kept a lot of us playing in like
Yeah.
summer 2015. And now we're getting that refined even further than Splatoon 2 with features that are going to, I think, make this the most playable and engaging version of an experience that
Yeah.
ultimately didn't need to be reinvented. It could have been expanded more. But for me, I think this showcase showed us that yes, Splatoon 3 is exactly what we thought it was, and it's the best
Mhm.
version of that. And it gave us Big Man.
It did give us Big
Did
Man.
give it. Absolutely. Yeah,
um,
yeah.
well, I want to. You mentioned Call of Duty, and I think that's like big brand. You can compare this to that because like Call of Duty comes
Sure.
out every year. It's very iterative. Um, I've been very vocal with my friend group about how I don't think Splatoon 3 looks that exciting because it is pretty iterative of Splatoon 2.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, you play Call of Duty. You can't, it doesn't matter. Your opinion's invalid. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
the difference here is Call of Duty comes out every year and does continue to improve slowly with each installment.
Go
It's
watch
been,
BackLogBanter.
yeah, go watch. It has been 5 years since Splatoon 2 came out. And like,
Yes.
yeah, you are
That's a
right.
big
Yes,
gap.
there is a lot of cool quality of life stuff. And yes, you're right. Splatoon 2 was getting new content, what, 2.5 years ago? So I guess it hasn't really been that long. But for me, for someone that wasn't playing Splatoon 2 throughout its entire life cycle, I really
Sure.
only played it like the first few months it was out. I'm just like, okay. It just feels it's been too long, I feel like, for
Yeah.
it to be this little. And to talk about the single player for a second, that was the thing I was holding on to. I was holding on to the single player
Same.
as being a big new thing. And they when they showed it in the reveal trailer, it kind of almost looked like an open world, open area, kind of exploring the Splatlands. What they showed today was just more Splatoon single player, just level based,
Yeah.
which is great. I like Splatoon single player, but it was the same thing, the same level based, same challenges. It doesn't feel like there's very many new ideas in this game. And
Yeah,
like
I think the lack of new ideas is exactly the problem that I'm having, but isn't really a problem to me. Is I wanted there to be the new idea that's like, oh, this is what's really making this stand out from the other games and make it like a substantive next iteration. And frankly, in the history of Nintendo, we're used to getting the next game in a series is not only going to be an improvement on one you got before, but have its own identity, stand out in a certain way, advance what video games can be in whatever way that is. Jumping from 64 to Sunshine to Galaxy to Odyssey, like different ideas, of course, very different from a multiplayer. Splatoon being much more iterative. But the single player, I think, is where I thought that they could easily improve the most because I have played the Splatoon 2 single players. I don't think I enjoyed them, frankly. And I always thought that there was potential that they could have more engaging puzzles, that they could have more engaging level designs that weren't things just floating in space, that contextualize a little better in the world, told a little more in-depth story. And while there were elements of that in the little hub worlds of the Splatoon 2 single player and the concept of the subway in an Octo expansion and the characters in the Octo expansion, it always felt like something was really missing for me to where I don't ever really think about those single player campaigns. I play them, so I finish it, so I see if they change something, and then it just basically leaves my mind. And because I like the characters of Splatoon. And while I think there's potential for this one to be better, I was hoping for them to show me what the changes were going to be in this. Like, yeah, we learned from the Octo expansion, and we know that you want something a little more substantial out of Splatoon's single player, but while they showed those cool environmental shots in the original trailer, there was nothing here that screamed new. Like, frankly, you could have showed me clips from that, and except for the fact they were using the bow or the grappling hook, I would have been able to say like, yeah, that looks like that was that a stage from Splatoon 2 single player. I wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm skeptical that we understand what the campaign is because of those
Sure.
shots of us walking past the upside down Eiffel Tower,
Yeah.
looking at the Spider-Verse inverted horizon line,
Yes.
right? Like
No, absolutely.
that suggests to me, it suggests one of two things. Either there is more that we don't know, or we just
Mhm.
saw shots of the cutscenes. And I'm not one that likes to ever basically give anybody the benefit of the doubt for anything, so I don't necessarily think we should say that there's going to be more, but I think that it has to be contextualized around what they said in the trailer, which is blatantly the single player campaign is going to hone your skills for multiplayer.
Yeah.
And I think it's a missed opportunity to not make it more than that because if there's one thing I love more than Splatoon, it's Halo. And for me, Halo is a single player narrative franchise that has
Yeah.
great multiplayer, right? And I think Splatoon is in a space where it could be that also. And we do see, as you're saying, both of you guys are saying these shots from stages that are interchangeable with what we've seen in the past. And
Yeah.
that could be more, right? But ultimately, at a certain point, I come down to the fact that I'm going to play this for a weekend and be done with it, right? And the missed opportunity
For
there
single
for
player,
me, yeah, right? No, I'm gonna fucking play Splatoon 3 for years, but I think it could have been more, and I want to reserve judgment, even though I'm not necessarily sure that my thoughts are going to be too much different from yours when I actually play it. I
yeah.
want to know what it is, right? Because that narrative got wackier and zanier with that Octo expansion finale and everything.
Mm.
I think there could be something really compelling here. But also, to me, a single player, you're buying everybody's buying the game for the multiplayer. So if they want to surprise me, I'm fine with that. It's the Metroid Dread problem of they showed me everything that that game had to offer that possible. Like, why did you do
Yeah.
that, right? Again, I think that the premise of this direct was you want to know why you're playing Splatoon for 3 years, not for 3 afternoons. So I'm reserving judgment on that front. The
Sure. No,
multiplayer,
absolutely.
I think was, I mean, obviously the focus of the game's design philosophy being that, oh, play a single player to train for multiplayer. And to that effect, Bo, I'm curious what you think, given sort of your hesitancy towards the lack of newness on the whole, what you think about changes to the lobbies, to the battle passes, to things like that, which to me seem to be the bulk of sort of the impetus behind making this game.
Well,
Absolutely, yeah.
what do you mean by battle pass? Did they
The
show a battle pass? Am I
yeah,
am I
the
missing something?
Yeah, the catalogs that they're gonna do, the new
Oh,
catalog is geared to
every
launch
three
every 2
months.
months. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, 3 months, yeah.
Oh, I guess that would be like I didn't even like read it like that. Okay, that's cool. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, especially like the
By the
lobby
way, Bo
system.
Talks Media, this is an MF who unlocks every unlockable in Nintendo Switch Sports, so
Yeah, yeah.
Battle Pass
I'm still
McGee
playing
over
Switch
here.
Sports. Yeah. Gotta get those weekly cosmetics, man. I gotta
Where's
play it
golf,
tonight.
by the way?
Based on the data mine, not
I
to go
follow
off
you, buddy.
topic. Based on the data mine, late October. It's
Just in
coming.
time.
Yeah, you have some time. Yeah, I mean, it's like you've been saying, the quality of life stuff is good. The new lobby system's great, where you can just invite friends
Yeah.
while practicing, while searching for lobbies. That's really good. But then I'd question why didn't it show the quality of life things that people have been begging for, like the speed up text, skipping the thing. It's like
Mm,
those are the things people have been begging for Splatoon. How long do we have to wait to play a different mode this time around?
yeah.
Um, Stuff like that is what I think most people would care about. In terms of being an improvement over two. The lobby system is great though. I don't know. It's just like honestly, they just needed to show me one new mode for multiplayer, and I guess they kind of did do that with the Splatfest. And I'm very curious to see how that mode will
Kind
play
of, yeah.
out with the 3-man teams. I hope they just
Right.
make that a regular mode because that is something new.
Yeah,
Um,
I mentioned that in our reaction, yeah.
yeah. Although it did kind of seem one sided. The team that's in first gets 4 people, and then the other teams get 2. That seems a little unbalanced, right?
Interesting.
I mean,
I guess
possibly,
it's
but
still 4v4 kind of, but
well, yeah. But they also showed that, like, at least based on that first map, you're like this way. You're
you're in
like
the middle.
you're hot dog, and the guys are coming at you hamburger,
Yeah,
right? So if
yeah,
you get pincered, I think it's probably going to be pretty dynamic and interesting.
yeah.
Sure.
I hope that's balanced. Um.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, and I wanted to mention this while we were talking about single player. I don't typically mind when Nintendo announces DLC early because they're usually pretty good about it, especially during this. Well, during the Switch era, that's when they've been even starting DLC. Um, the fact that they're already confirming that they're going to have a major paid DLC like Octo expansion this early already makes me feel like the single player for this game is going to be more like Splatoon 2, and the DLC will be like an Octo
Mm,
expansion in terms of quality.
yep.
Now that could be I could be completely off base with that. We'll have to wait and see. Um, but like the gap in quality from Splatoon 2's campaign to Octo expansion is night and day. It's not even close. So that already kind of put me on ice. I'm like, I'm excited for that DLC, but um, I don't know. I just think,
I think, yeah. I think
yeah,
that's a fair point. I think that there might just be too much ambiguity there for me to say the same because I think about, for instance, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 saying, and we're doing a Torna size expansion, right? I
Yep.
don't think that there's inherently reason to be worried because something else is coming. Um, Especially because my issue with the Splatoon 2 campaign, if anything, was that it was iterative, not bad. And the Octo
Mhm.
expansion succeeded just by merit of being different. So
Yes.
I think I'll have more to weigh in on that point when we actually know what it is, but
yeah,
frankly, I don't think that's going to come anytime soon. I think Nintendo's just getting comfortable with the fact that, hey, we want to let you know that something's going to happen later. They did it for Zelda, they did it for this. Some of the, I frankly, I think this makes a little bit more sense than waiting 5 years and saying, "Hey, Mario Kart's getting this," or
yeah,
Fire Emblem randomly dropping, and now we're doing the Cindered Shadows, right? I don't mind having a roadmap. If it comes at the cost of the core game, as you're saying, Bo, then I'll be an unhappy boy. But I just don't know
Yeah.
how.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
just sorry. I just want to say
Finish. Yeah, no,
there
it's fine.
the single player will be good. The DLC will probably be great. That's my thing. It's just like
Sure.
knowing that we're getting a DLC that will probably be better than the core game is just always a little weird. At least just based
Mhm.
on Splatoon 2. But like
Yeah,
you
and I
said,
think
it
it's just a
could be
different
like
expectation.
Torna.
Like, you can't compare this to what Xenoblade 2 and Torna did because Xenoblade 2 and Torna had a fantastically rich base game and then a surprisingly rich post-launch content. Splatoon 2 had, as you said, a decent but iterative base game and a surprisingly great uh, expansion. So that track record just still seems like it might be going here, but of course, still going back to the fact that we don't know exactly if they're hiding something about the single player campaign.
Yeah,
But we've always felt that from the beginning, and we're a month away from launch now. And I think that's the thing that doesn't necessarily worry me because I'm still excited for this game. I still think that there's a chance that this could be a better single player campaign. But I was hoping for a breakdown like this 2 months ago and then able to get a little more information on the things that Bo was talking about, like, oh, hey, just an update on Twitter, like, hey, you can speed through the text now. Like that's something that doesn't need to be in a direct, but like having those drip feed, like more substantial announcements about quality of life changes after the big one like this. But we do have time for that, kind of, because there's a month and that's enough time to put out a couple tweets. But the fact that they waited so long, I think, is why people's expectations are this is not necessarily meeting them because it felt like they're hiding something. They weren't really. This is what we expected, and I don't think that's necessarily inherently a bad thing. And I think everything they showed there does look like pretty much categorical improvements, in my opinion. And frankly, I do want to have a larger discussion about this in a second. But the idea that this could have just been an update, I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think that's true. But because they waited so long, the other shoe never dropped while watching this direct. It wasn't like, oh, here's why they waited until a month before launch to show us everything about the game. Nope, just more Splatoon.
you're telling me
yeah.
they didn't wait to reveal it because they didn't want the competition to steal table turf battle, the
I
exciting
want
new
I call it
card
Gwent
mode.
2.
I want to make one note about the whole text thing because I think you don't have to watch the news anymore because you've got those awful looking that fucking puncture your leg clam phones, and the
Oh, the
clam
cucumber,
phone,
sea
yeah,
phone or
it's
whatever.
they show like you in the world and it says like press X to watch the news on your phone, and then I
Mhm.
think that goes to deep cut. So
Yeah.
it
Okay,
seems like it's possible that you boot right into Splatsville. Again, I don't like talking in vague speculation, but it did seem to telegraph based on that trailer that that news is optional. It's important to remember even in Splatoon 2. And then I don't remember if it was in Splatoon 1 also, but at a certain point they're like, yeah, you don't have to get kicked out to watch the news again mid-session. So that's already not
Mhm.
going to be an issue. It's going to be the onboarding, and hopefully the phone, no more onboarding with the news. But either
Yeah.
way, Bo, I think where I do meet you in the middle on the whole, well, we needed something more fundamental is in just the general map rotation. Now, for sickos who play Splatoon super competitively, I'm not one of those sickos. I can get to S rank, and that's about where I top out. they like for the context of ranked, now called anarchy battles, they like having set maps to play, and I think that's fine. But turf war, you're going in there to dick around with your friends and new weapons and whatever. Removing the rotation or adopting a Mario Kart 8 style map choosing selection,
So
I think
lame.
was necessary for this game, especially because 12 stages is not a ton, but 12 stages is plenty to where people, you give us four, pick one of these four, right? There are ways to introduce that variety, still keep a little bit more locked if you want to, but there were different ways to aggregate the stages, I think, for multiplayer. And that was one of my major quality of life changes that I wanted above two that we didn't get. So no good on that front. But
Mhm.
to me, that is the one place where I feel like they didn't meet my expectations in terms of let's make Splatoon finally an actually robust and uncompromised online multiplayer game.
Yeah, Nintendo's just they're getting there. They're getting there. It's taken 3 games,
Yeah.
but they are getting there. I'll give them that. Um, Tucker, you said you had something you wanted to bring up, but before that, I do want to say, they showed 12 maps. I think they showed all 12 of them, and
Yeah, in a
Yes.
little screen with
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
hey,
yeah.
here's all the main
So
ones with
I
the
don't know the
warrant.
exact split, but I think they showed what 4 maps from Splatoon 1,
Yeah.
that had not been added to Splatoon 2, I believe. But
Oh,
then they
okay.
showed Splatoon 2 maps, and that's another thing. Just going back to the entire thing of does this game need to exist, kind of, which it does. I get it. Um, we already have Splatoon 2 on the Switch, and I know that game is dead, but playing the same maps again on the same
Mhm.
console also just feels weird to me. Especially at launch. That's one of those things you add later. You don't use the content from the game that's already on the system, right? That just feels weird to me. Um,
I get what you're saying, but I think what it comes down to is that Splatoon 3, this is a different type of game than Nintendo usually makes. It goes back to, I think Tucker made a really salient point thinking about, let's think about 64 into Sunshine, into Galaxy, into Odyssey. There is a reason to go back and play 64 and Sunshine and Galaxy once you have Odyssey, right?
Yeah,
And throw in 3D World there because it's better than almost all of those games.
no, no, no,
that's fair.
no.
But on a serious note, right? Like there's this sort of lateral progression wherein no game is superseded, right? In most of
Yeah.
Nintendo's franchises. But
Oh, absolutely.
Splatoon, by merit of being, frankly, probably Nintendo's only franchise that is this contingent upon having an online persistent world,
Yes.
there is no reason to play Splatoon 2. There is
Mhm.
certainly no reason to play Splatoon 1. And so I don't necessarily take umbrage with maps coming back because the expectation is the world of Splatoon is getting bigger. If
Yeah.
anything, Bo, what I would say is I wish that all of the maps from Splatoon 2 were here, right?
Mm.
Because it's the idea of it's the Destiny idea. Destiny 1, why are you playing Destiny 1? You should be playing Destiny 2. The world is moving on without you. The world of
Mhm.
Splatoon, everybody picked up, nobody lives in Inkopolis anymore. We all live in Splatsville. And so the premise I think as a player is there why forget about that content? But also why play the old game? What Splatoon 3 is we need new movement tech. We need a better menu system. We need progression that keeps people engaged. We need to allow people to play with their friends. We need a menu system that is not futz with the tempo and the volume of the menu music on the right stick as you wait, right?
Mhm.
And so to that effect, bring everything over. I was
Yeah.
quite pleased to hear that every main weapon is coming back because they should.
That's
Because
good. Yeah,
again, it's a subsummation of past games. So it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily bother me that it's older content because again, we're buckling in for 3 years of Splatoon. I think if
Mhm.
anything, Nintendo's getting into a poor situation where they're making, for people who aren't super engaged, the launch proposition of their games worse. Like people,
Mm.
and I think people learned this with Strikers. After 2 Mario sports games that did the same thing. I'm gonna buy Strikers in 8 months when all the content's out. I think
Yeah.
that there's probably a similar and salient reason to that with Splatoon 3. But if you're
Mm.
engaged in sort of the premise of playing Splatoon as it unfolds, I don't think there's any problem with old content being put in the framework of the game that you're gonna wanna play.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's absolutely true. I think it feels like something like how exciting it was to hear with Smash Ultimate that they didn't even hide it. They're like, hey, this isn't Brawl where we've got the classic stages hidden in another page if you want to go play the ones from Melee and a little bit from 64. But no, every well, not every stage, but almost every stage is here since
And the
like
poke floats.
what Poke floats and Pac Maze or whatever, for whatever the hell reason. But I do wish that it was them not selling the game on we have 12 stages. And guess what? Most of those stages you've if you're a hardcore Splatoon fan, you've already played before. I think
Right.
that's where Bo's problem comes in. It's not like we're adding to this. They kind of are because there's maybe 4 or 5 new stages. I didn't really check, and also I never played Splatoon 1, so I wouldn't be able to tell which ones
Oh,
are all old. But that didn't feel like most of the substantial new content, especially for stages, was when you get into this game, you're not going to be seeing mostly new things in Turf 4. You're going to be seeing mostly things you've already experienced before. And as Bo was saying, half of them already on the
That's fair.
system. So you've experienced them within the last few years. And it's not like I also do think that there could have been a way for them to balance this out a little bit is show the art museum stage, which I played in Splatoon 2, but it's a different season. So they've got different art in here. And oh, maybe, in the world there was a I was gonna say a bombing, but that's violent and terrible. And I want to say like
whoa.
something happened. They added a new wing onto. Yeah, I shouldn't have said that, but whatever. They added a new wing onto the art museum, so you've got a new area
Right.
to fight in, like some sort of like world change that
Yeah,
adds to these maps and
that's
recontextualizes them a little bit, even if it's
That's a good
largely
point.
the same layout and like stuff like that.
that's a fantastic point because we're in a completely new part of the world. We're in Splatsville now. We're in the
Mhm,
Splatlands. The maps look the same. Call of Duty does this
mhm.
where if they typically when they bring back a map, they completely rechange it and recontextualize what it is. You have Hijack, which is a boat. Then you have Skyjacked, I think they called it, and it's just a boat in the sky. But it's in the sky and it's futuristic,
Sure.
right? So like they at least change the aesthetic of it a little bit.
Mhm.
I'm sure there probably is little differences that
Very possible.
keen viewers will pick apart, but on the
They changed the
surface,
placement of the little jellyfish guy that's tickling the art in the background.
yeah, yeah,
You
um,
know, that's a great point, Bo, and it's interesting that we didn't see more of that because we know that we have done this with Splatoon before. I mean, I think of that like the cargo crate stage in Splatoon 1. When that was back in Splatoon 2, they overhauled it. Black Belly Skate Park too, I think, believe got the same treatment. I mean, they've
they changed the design of it. Yes,
yeah. So I would hope that they're doing that here, but we didn't see that. So it's possible that
Mhm.
they just ported the stages, which I guess I just was like, oh, well, of course they're gonna fuck with them because they did that in the past. But if they didn't, that is definitely a missed opportunity.
yeah, they
Yeah.
might have just felt like it wasn't necessary to show it. I guess, and that could be like a
Well,
Twitter
Really
update
yeah.
possible.
too. Um, so
And they're
yeah,
no stranger to just showing things on Twitter, of course.
no,
That's what this game has been getting a lot of. Hey, here's a weapon. Here's a concept. They've been doing that consistently, but those aren't the things that make me tune into Splatoon personally. It is these sort of larger scale changes, which I think is what this direct did best for me. Even if I wasn't super wowed by it, I was impressed by the amount of subtle changes that they're making to the game to make it a more robust and modern experience. Even down to the idea of it's not Squid Jump from Splatoon 1 or the fuck with the sound thing from Splatoon 2. We now for the mini
Right.
game, we've got an entire puzzle card game where you can battle guys. Like that's an entire other mode at that point. And I actually think that might be the most substantial thing they announced today. And it doesn't seem great, but it's a cool addition and something that's definitely a new idea that obviously could have been in the past games, but wasn't. And so that's kind of what this game has going for it, alongside a lot of other smaller changes. Like now you've got emotes, you've got your tags, you've got the lobby and the locker room, which I think is a great idea, giving you more things to unlock and spend money on and customize. A lot they're honing in on what people's favorite part about the Splatoon multiplayer sort of community experience is posting your doodles, showing your friends your new outfit, scanning it onto the amiibo, having the your inkling show up in someone else's square. They're leaning into those aspects in a way that I think makes it feel more than just superfluous. Oh, hey, this guy's inkling has a bubble over his head in Goblet's Square. No, it seems like there's a little more to it now, especially because you can in the lobby you can walk up to them and join their battle right away. These are surprisingly big updates that frankly I wasn't even thinking of, but definitely are market improvements over two.
yeah, for
Yeah, I
sure.
think they speak to what Splatoon 2 ended up missing for long-term play, which is okay, at a certain point, I've got the gear I like, I got the weapons I like.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go into these static lobbies. I'm gonna walk around the static hub area. It's it's similar, right? And I'm sure we're going to fall into that tedium eventually. But
yeah.
I think we've put a lot of sort of barriers between us and that happening. Be it the lockers, which, it's just a calling card. Check out my lockers, cool little thing to design. Another reason to spend coins, another thing to unlock and progress in a game that is predicated so heavily upon customization. You know,
New
all
shopkeeper
the
who appeared from
shopkeepers are very
Hot
cute.
The
Topic.
little snail with glasses. It's pretty
He's a
good.
great one.
Yeah.
but then I think the card mode is also really interesting. How compelling it's gonna be is gonna, I think, be person to person, but I think about all of the sickos who love Gwent and love all these card games and their RPGs, right?
Yeah.
Those
I
filthy
don't
people
they
that play
Bo,
Gwent.
I'm right there with you. But I would love for that to be mine, and there's a chance that it might be. Again, I think that what Splatoon was compelling for in 2015 especially was that, man, I'm in this lobby in a Nintendo game and people are talking to each other and there's stuff happening, right? The game feels alive. But it was always some degree of simulated, right? And obviously this is too. This is not Second Life. But at a certain point, I think being in the lobby with your friends persistently, having the locker decorate, having the space that's yours, having this extra card game, being able to practice your weapons and not just having the lobby be like this ephemeral loading screen that exists and goes away and comes back, but you're in this practice room as you're waiting for a match. All of this, I think, is a progression towards what Splatoon has wanted to be, and having
Yeah.
better art design in a more dense hub area contributes to that. Watching all of the celebrations that are going to happen in Splatfest looks great, looks way better than what we got in the past. And I do think that this is a sort of situation where when you iterate on all these little facets enough, the convergence is an experience where I think when we have Splatoon 3 in our hands and we put that experience, that moment to moment experience next to Splatoon 2's, it's going to look apparent. Because I did a quick
Yeah.
Google and I'm curious how this sits with your boys' guts, okay? Splatoon 1 launched in May 2015.
Mhm.
Splatoon 2, September 2017. 2 years and change. Splatoon 2, 5 years ago at this point. The final update, the last major update for Splatoon 2 was 5.0, and I just looked on July 31st, 2019. So between the last time that Splatoon 2 was updated to the launch of Splatoon 3 is longer than the gap between Splatoon 1 and
Mhm.
Splatoon 2.
Yeah.
Point being, I think that there is this again, and I think Nintendo has constructed this for themselves with their just unceasing commitment to everything must innovate. This feeling that this game needs to be more, when in reality, there has been far more time to gestate and forget about Splatoon and want to
Sure.
revisit Splatoon and be back in that
Oh,
world
interesting. Yeah.
than there was when Splatoon 2 came out, which really felt to me like shit, Splatoon was a big deal on Wii U, we want to capitalize right away. This to
Yeah.
me felt
And
like
they did.
yeah,
They did.
this felt
That's what that was for sure.
absolutely. That game was way too iterative at
Yes,
launch
I
because
agree. That game was
yeah.
also very iterative. Yeah, for sure.
So what do you think about that idea, Bo? Because I just feel like when we talk about all these changes, some of those parts is a development team that says we have a formula that is so strong that doesn't need to be changed. But
Yeah.
we have a lot of ways that we can make this better, and we're going to give people the time to simmer and come back not only 5 years after launch, but 3 years after the last update to
Mhm.
give them the better version of that experience again.
Yeah. I don't know. This discussion's kind of won me over a little bit. I think I'm just being a negative Nancy because like we talked about, I'm used to the big Nintendo games completely
Yeah.
redoing the envelope. It just is not. It's funny because like you look at like New Super Mario Bros. And they don't do anything different, but then with
Mhm.
Splatoon and like 3D Mario and Zelda, you expect something different. I guess I shouldn't have slotted Splatoon in that category. I should have never done that. I made that mistake. Nintendo never made a precedent where each game's going to be completely different. In fact, like
Yeah.
we talked about, Splatoon 2 was completely iterative. Um,
Mhm.
although I guess maybe I kind of give it the pass because it was a new console and they wanted to milk
Sure.
it real
That
quick.
might be the difference, at least in
Yeah.
in an internal mind, like,
Right.
well,
And that's
this
all
is
on
why it's
me.
okay.
When I play Splatoon 3 and there are a lot of quality of life changes. You have the weird Spider-Man grapple now. You can
The
like
shark,
yeah, the shark. Yeah, the shark's awesome.
shark car, I like the
The
shark car.
specials look great. I mean, there is a lot of cool new things to be excited about. I think it's just the reality that this is Nintendo's first multiplayer game, basically.
Yeah.
That really,
Serious.
really is a
Multiplayer
multiplayer.
series.
Yeah, multiplayer series. So like, just seeing how they evolve it is very different than their other games.
No,
Um,
absolutely. And I think this comes back to what I was saying initially, and I think sort of the large scale discussion about this game. And is what I was saying mostly on Twitter when I was looking in the comments of different people saying different things about this is how could this not have been an update? And I think that's a little bit reductive when you look at how on a large scale and on a small scale, even if it's not the lack of a new mode or the single player not being a complete overhaul, Splatoon is a multiplayer franchise, and we are used to getting all these multiplayer games. be it Battlefield, be it Call of Duty, be it FIFA, Madden, all these games that are iterative like this. And this seems frankly more substantial on almost every level than any of those series, which obviously get passes for different reasons and have different audiences and don't have the Nintendo expectations put behind them. But this not being an update, I think, is very important. Look at what's happening with Overwatch 2. That game is an update to Overwatch 1. And now people are on the opposite side, like, why isn't this just a full new game? Like, now it feels weird that they're just subsuming the original game and sort of getting rid of the things. That if Splatoon 3 was that for Splatoon 2 and they continue to have it be a platform, I don't think it would have felt like a true successor, a true event, a true like, hey, we're really putting the effort into not only making a new lighting engine and physics engine for these character models and completely redoing the hub area and giving you all this new stuff. I think that if it was an update, no one would have cared, frankly, because the game would have been 5 years old at that point. Like, oh, we're still getting Splatoon 2. Where's Splatoon 3? Now we're getting Splatoon 3. And they're changing things like you have new movement tech, whole sets of new weapons, new idol trio, which we haven't even talked about yet, a new location, and a whole new single player. These are all things that if they had been an update, people would be like, whoa, 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 whoa. What's going on? Why aren't they making a new game? So I feel like they put themselves in a weird position, at least with this being a lot more iterative than their other titles, where people are like, oh, this could have been an update. But I frankly don't think that's true. With all the many different things that they are changing about this game, feeling as you like sort of add them up, way more substantial than the jump from Splatoon 1 to Splatoon 2, but way more substantial than you get with most iterative single multiplayer franchises.
Yeah, it's funny though that you say like, oh, you make a great point. If this were an update to Splatoon 2, I would not care. I wasn't playing
Yeah,
Splatoon 2 when it was getting updated. But it is
exactly.
funny
Neither was I.
seeing the juxtaposition between this and Mario Kart, where that DLC could have been its own new game.
Mhm.
They could have made that a new game, and they just didn't, obviously, because that's doing so well, and Splatoon 2 sales have just completely fallen off a cliff. Um, you mentioned the idols. I
Mhm.
gotta ask, are you boys fans of these new idols? What are their names? Shiver and Fry, I think. Oh,
Shiver
Uh,
oh,
and
and
Big
then
Man.
Big Man, of
Big
course. Yeah,
man.
Big Man, the best
I
idol.
like. Yes, I agree. I think these are the best idols in general because we were talking about this in our reaction. Pearl and Marina were just Callie and Marie again, but with a little bit more personality. These when we're seeing these three dancing around, we got the big man to Rayman. They feel a lot more distinct to me, so I'm quite happy with them.
Yeah, I agree. Tucker, are you a
Uh,
fan?
I, I think they're probably the best, but I think that Shiver and Fry are just Pearl and Marina again, but maybe with more personality, but maybe with less. So obviously we'll have to read their text, read their banter, get a little bit more used to their dynamic. What's this trio called?
Deep
Deep
cut.
cut, I believe.
Deep cut. Yeah.
But I think the thing that really seals it is that they added not only a third member, but a third member that's not just a female pop idol. That again for the sixth time.
I made
And Big Man does. I don't know if he will have a ton of personality. He certainly is like a background addition. He's just kind of waving his fins as the other two do the singing work. But I think just having him there, and also the fact that that now also changes the dynamic of Splatfest, I think is an important change. And I'm kind of hoping for the point where we can get Splatoon 7. All right, we're talking way down the line. Where we've
on
got
the
we've got
Switch
a we
too.
got a
We'll get
whole
4 sequels on the next console.
exactly where they're able to go away just from having most of the idols be slim female inklings that are basically an iteration of what they've done before. They can have different kinds of bands, which I guess they kind of have, but more varied designs. I think Big Man is a good step in that direction, but I guess I don't really care about Shiver and Fry. I think they're fine, but my introduction was Pearl and Marina, and these seem like Pearl and Marina again, just kind of shifted around a tiny bit.
Yeah, they just
But
look
then there's Big
slightly.
Man, so
Big Man saves it completely. Big Man's
yeah.
absolutely goaded. I'm just looking at that picture. He's amazing. I need to make that my wallpaper. Um, I guess we're wrapping it up here. Do you guys have any other thoughts on Splatoon 3?
I think the last thought I have to say, and this kind of ties back to what Tucker was saying, the idea is, could this be an update? Well, clearly Nintendo doesn't think so, and I think what it comes down to is like, there's the cry for Call of Duty to be a platform, right? And I think that they are going to experiment with that a little bit more with Warzone and everything. But I would never pretend to know about Call of Duty beyond the few single player campaigns I've played. Point being is that Activision realizes that that the proper release model still works, right?
Mhm.
And when I thought about Splatoon 2, and I tweeted this before this direct even was announced, was like, maybe they shot themselves in the foot and did the Destiny 2 thing of why did you even make a new one? Why isn't everyone just still playing Destiny 1? Why wasn't the Witch Queen a Destiny 1 expansion? And I think that you guys may be underselling a little bit the impact that major expansions to a persistent Splatoon 2 would have in the ecosystem. I mean, you look at a game
Sure.
like Sea of Thieves, which is, I believe, just on Twitter, the fourth most popular game on Game Pass.
Really?
That's on season 7. That's been going since I was in like on high school underclassmen, right? Like a game that builds a community tends not to lose it, especially not in an ecosystem like Switch where there's no analog really, aside from like
Sure.
Fortnite
Good
and
point.
things. At the same time, though, I don't think Nintendo's necessarily making a mistake by throwing their dice down with here's a new retail game, here's 2 years of support with Bo. I think you said every 3 months new battle pass analog. I think that works. And I think that then 2 years from then, we let it simmer again and we're into Splatoon 4, that point on a new console. I don't think
Yeah.
there's any problem with that. I think that we as Nintendo fans make up patterns and we make up rules, and that's basically half of the fun, right? But at a
Yeah.
certain point, this Splatoon is not the model that most of the games operate on because Splatoon was Nintendo finally saying, what if we made games that actually looked to the rest of the industry, right? And I think that is a positive change. And I think that then Splatoon 3 must be measured by metrics that are not 3D Mario and things of that nature.
Mm.
And to me, Splatoon 3 is exactly what I thought it was going to be, and I'm going to play a shit ton of it. And it's very weird that I'm sorry, I'm giving your audience a false impression of me because I'm coming on here being super excited about a Nintendo game, but
That's
I
what
haven't
I
liked
wasn't
on it.
expecting this at all,
Right.
based on what I
I
know of you.
haven't liked, yeah, I've liked basically nothing they released this year outside of Kirby. So it's very weird that I'm doing this, but I can't wait for Splatoon 3.
um, Tucker, before we get to your final thoughts, this is kind of an aside, but I do want to mention it because it's very funny. So I go on Reset Era and Femi boards pretty often, and everybody's all expecting, oh, we're gonna get a Switch 2, like in 2024. They just
Mhm.
confirmed that Splatoon 3 will be getting updates until September of 2024.
It's a
We are
great point.
not getting a new console until 2025 at the earliest. this
It's a great
basically
point.
basically confirms that.
No,
We already kind of
absolutely.
have the roadmap of the Mario Kart DLC, but
Yeah.
this is
Which
another
ends
full year now.
2023.
So,
Wait, when does that end? That ends
December
December
2023.
2023. Yeah.
This will
Okay.
go
So
until
that.
end of 2024. So, hold off on that Switch 2, guys. Go in and buy your
Oh
Switch
God.
OLED. No worries.
Yeah.
Just wanted to mention that. Tucker,
Yeah.
did you have any?
No, I'm in a very similar place with Abram. The more I talk about all these different things, and I will rewatch this direct. I'm notorious for rewatching direct, scanning for all the details, making sure that I know each thing that was announced, and whatever thing. It's one of my bits. But I do think that while in the moment, um, where most of the effort of this direct was put didn't really please me. It was like, hey, here's Turf War and how it works. Here is how buying items from shops work. I'm like, all right, we know how to buy things from shops in video games. I don't know if you need to spend the effort on that, but I think that it sort of began to add up over the course of the rest. No one particular thing was a pop for me, which I think is absolutely what this was missing, and maybe still what I would want from this game to sort of make it really distinct. But when you say, "Hey, we're making changes to this, we're making changes to that," there's new movement tech, there's new idols, there's a new hub world. It will make this game feel nothing like Splatoon 2. When you're in the experience and you're exploring spots for the first time, you're talking to the new set of shopkeepers, you're getting new weapons, you're experimenting with the new movement tech on new stages. You're never going to think that, oh, this could have been an update for Splatoon 2 because it's going to be, from the player's perspective, mostly new things for them to check out. And of course, over time, I'm sure there will be sort of a mellowing down of, oh, actually, yeah, I can see where this is, assets reused from the first and second games. And oh, I wish they'd added something here. But I'm gonna go into this and I'm gonna play the single player. I'm gonna dick around a little bit in the multiplayer, and I'm gonna be excited when they show off a new map. And it's just gonna be an entirely fresh new hype cycle for a game that, frankly, while I loved when I played it in 2018, which was where most of my Splatoon 2 kind of came from, I haven't been inconsistently. And that's just how I am with multiplayer games. But it's exciting for me to have Nintendo putting this much effort because this game looks super high production value. It doesn't seem like they're skimping on anything. It's not like there's the 4 stages like there was in the first game, or a mediocre single player mode, which is what we had in the second game. It seems like this is a very full content rich package, and of course, we've gotten 2 games and years of worth of updates to get to this point. But at launch, I'm very happy with what's here. It doesn't feel like I'm missing something, and I'm excited to see where it goes down the line.
Did they say if all the weapons will be there at launch from the previous games, or is that going to be over the course of the entire
Don't know.
update
I mean, we
cycle?
talk over all these directs, so I don't really
Yeah,
remember.
it's probably going to be over the course of everything. Well, I guess that'll do it. Tucker, where can people follow you online?
Well, you can follow the both of us on our YouTube channel, Backlog Banter. And well, technically we have a Twitter account for Backlog Banter that hasn't been used in a long
I
time.
followed
But
that the other day, and I realized you guys don't use it.
nope. Uh, but I have a Twitter account at Tucker Hazel. But if you want to really get to know me or my co-host here, Abram Buter, you can join our Discord, which is in the link of description of every one of our videos. And also just watch our videos. It'd be nice.
Please go watch Backlog Banter. Abram, where can people follow you?
Tucker, I'm not going to be redundant here. So if you want to find me in particular, you can follow me on Twitter at Abram Buner. I'm also a senior editor for Lost in Cult, making all kinds of cool books. So come check them out. I think they're pretty awesome. The last thing I just have to say, Bo, I just think that if you're going to get all excited about a Fire Emblem game, it's just the same copy and paste Musou nonsense and the same conversations. You got to like Splatoon
Well,
3.
that's a Musou, so I don't expect anything good.
Oh, that's an even better point.
Splatoon, I expect something good.
Oh, you Uno reverse carded you, Abram. Holy crap.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Of course, you can subscribe here for more Nintendo coverage and videos and goodwill thrifting. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksMedia. And until next time, folks, see you later.